This looks like a multiplayer gaming interface.
I've had enough.
Oh, that diabolical old fossil face. I asked him for money to invest in video games back in 1979.
Cornelius spent over 30 years developing a video game for you. It was his dying wish that you and 7 of your closest friends would play it.
LeVar Burton was a maybe.
So please, choose a seat.
Cool.
So a 100-year-old man designed a 30-year-old video game? This I've got to see.
Welcome to Gimmicks, a podcast about the high-concept, experimental, structure-breaking gimmick episodes from television. From musicals to bottle episodes to stories told through 16-bit video game characters. I'm one of your hosts, David Arnold.
And I'm Derek B. Gale, a representative of the cabal of fruits, junkies, and sluts.
No, Derek, that's just Britta. This week, we're back to the Greendale Study Group with Community, Season 3, Episode 20, entitled Digital Estate Planning. If you're unfamiliar with the television series Community, it was a sitcom created by Dan Harmon, co-creator of Rick and Morty, and most recently Strange Planet on Apple TV+, that aired from 2009 to 2015 for 5 seasons on NBC and had a final 6th season on the now defunct Yahoo screen. Derek, I don't suppose you caught the 2015 White House Correspondents' Dinner with Cecily Strong, did you?
No, I did not catch that.
The only reason I bring it up is that in 2014, Joel McHale hosted the dinner, and Cecily, immediately following him, got a nice little burn at the beginning of her set, claiming that speaking at this dinner is an amazing opportunity that can take you from starring on a show in NBC all the way to starring on that same show, but now on Yahoo.
Wow. I mean, true.
It is true.
True.
The series focuses on a group of misfits that have formed a close-knit study group / stand-in family while attending Greendale Community College, which is full of wacky characters and fourth-wall breaking pop culture homage-laden adventures. The show is famous for its very meta but still heavily character-based humor, its pretty groundbreaking use of genre shifts and concept episodes, and its stacked cast of actors that were either recognizable at the time, like Joel McHale, Chevy Chase, Ken Jeong, or were unknowns who have become since breakout stars like Donald Glover, Alison Brie, Gillian Jacobs, Danny Pudi, and Yvette Nicole Brown. Yeah. Derek, for new listeners, what's your backstory with the television show Community?
I don't remember what I said the last time that we did Community, so hopefully the stories check out.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Investigators, do your jobs.
But I mean, the short answer is that I watched it from the start. It looked really fun. I think my friends and I were already fans of The Soup, so we knew Joel McHale from that. And so we started Community for him, really not realizing what we were getting ourselves into, I think. And then obviously I think the show is much bigger than Joel McHale. So, yeah. And I think fell in love with it. And especially as it sort of, grew and changed and became just kind of like, I think it appealed to so many of my sensibilities of what I love from television and the way that it itself has so much love for television and seemed to play with the rules of TV. And, obviously it's known for being like super meta and everything and doing all these like concept episodes and everything. Obviously that's like my shit. So it made a lot of sense. So, I stuck with it all the way through the Yahoo screen years.
Wow, Derek, a trooper, a real trooper there.
I think the last season on Yahoo Screen is one of the best seasons, actually. That's my second favorite season of the show. I think it's very underrated considering how underwatched it was. But yeah, I mean, I have a lot of love for it for obvious reasons. It was also like one of the ones that it was the first review writing gig that I had on the internet was for Community. Like it was the first half of the 3rd season of Community I was writing reviews for. I don't think that those reviews are probably very good now, and I probably don't stand by anything that I say in any of them. I revisited my review for this one when I wrote it, and I was like, this isn't the worst thing ever, but I also like maybe go a little bit too hard on trying to defend the ironic racism in the episode. So I don't.
Well, we're gonna get into it. We are gonna get into it because it does not hold water today.
It'll be an interesting conversation. I think Community has a lot of interesting things about it with how it deals with race, both good and bad, I think. But yeah, this episode is a weird one. But yeah, I mean, so all of that's to say, I think that it was a good, that aspect of it was a good growth experience for me as a writer and as understanding TV. And I think this is the kind of show where it's like, if you're a fan of television, whether you were super into the show or not, I think it's like a thing where it's just, it's very obvious and sort of undeniable how important it is for the sort of scope of television, I think, for just the fan base that it accumulated and the sort of ways that it played with TV. I think you could definitely see the ramifications on like what modern day TV and sitcoms will be doing going forward. And I think a big reason is because of the way Community was willing to experiment with its own format.
Yeah, we're going to be talking obviously about today's episode, which is an animated episode, but in a lot of ways, even all of the live action episodes of Community play in that same 30 Rock style of like, it's like a living cartoon.
Yeah.
The cuts are fast, the scenes are quick, the jokes are sometimes a mile a minute, which is kind of fun and exciting. And I would even trace that back to like the effect The Simpsons had on how new projects were funded and greenlit and brought into the zeitgeist.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like, it was reminding me when reading about this episode and returning to it, like how arc centered the third season was in the last half. And I think that was a thing for me watching it at the time that I think really fascinated me to see just like a 22-minute sitcom on network television that was like playing in like the space of a dramatic arc, but the dramatic arc itself was still really silly and really cartoony. And it was really novel at the time. Obviously plenty of sitcoms have done some level of serialization, but like the type of serialization that this show did, where like the third season, it's like they're expelled and the dean has been like kidnapped in a coup where he's been replaced by a lookalike or whatever. It's like, it's ridiculous. And I think it was really novel at the time. I think like pretty much every comedy show does that now. So it's revisiting it. I've sort of softened on this season, I think, more than at the time, just because it's sort of like I've seen what they're doing done a lot better over and over again. Like, it's sort of lost the novelty of it. But I think it is important that like in like the 2010s, Community was, I think, sort of innovating with what you could do on network television. It wasn't pulling in the best ratings, I think, as it was doing it, but I think it was such a critical darling because it was so willing to like break the boundaries of what you would expect to see in NBC comedy at the time, you know?
Yeah. It's funny because I don't actually remember when I started to engage with Community, but while you were in college, I was working for my college then. And so I was the dean, and it was great to have yourself represented on TV as someone who just was trying to get people to care about this community that we're trying to build when all they want to do is complete their tasks and go home to their families or to their television shows or whatever. And so that was sort of the unique perspective that I had on Community, and it holds a place in my heart because of that. I do think that Jim Rash is also just like a genius.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Real shame that we're not talking about him in this episode, but the Dean is a wonderful character. He's fantastic.
Both episodes of the show that have been covered so far didn't have Jim Rash in them.
What's the deal? That's true. That's right. Because he wouldn't have been in the apartment.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of the most, like, you know, Community, obviously every episode is a high concept episode, but like the most high concept episodes are usually ones where they really do pare it down to the core 7. So like it makes sense, but it's a bummer. I love me some Jim Rash. I want to talk about Jim Rash at some point. So we've got to find some way to pick an episode with him in it.
Maybe when that movie comes out, there'll be something for us to go on.
Maybe. Well, the episode we're talking about today, I totally understand why you picked it, David, given I'm sure we'll talk about it. The episode is Digital Estate Planning. As we said, the original air date was May 17th, 2012. The synopsis per IMDb is: the study group must help Pierce win a video game so that he can claim his inheritance from his father, but somebody may be out to ensure that he loses. I like that there's a question there, like we don't know that, like there isn't only one other character in the episode.
Yeah, like, why are you being ominous? He sounds ominous. What's going on?
So before we get to the writers of it, I think because I have some things to say about the credits of this episode. I mean, the whole shtick of this episode is that it's a video game.
It is, and it's interesting. So I obviously left my job back in May to go full time to video game school and make that my like art that I leave the world. And so I was really excited to cover this episode because I was like, oh, they put everyone into a video game. It's very obvious, and just not from my memory, but it's very obvious that this was an animated feature, that this was not a programmed video game that everyone was put into. But I am excited to report to all Gimmicks listeners that this was recreated by fans. I have now gone through the game 3 times. It's got everything you could possibly want, from marrying Hilda and making your own little town, to confronting Cornelius and taking the throne of Hawkhorn as Britta, as you all should play as Britta, because she's the worst. It's got a lot of charm. It's a lot of fan love that's been put into this. And it's an open source engine. So if you too are getting into sort of game design or anything like that, you can look at sprites, you can look at the controls, you can look at the back-end scripting that was created for it. The video game is a lot more fleshed out, obviously, than the episode that we see. In particular, I want to give a shout out to the wonderful chiptune version of Mamma Mia that is put into Gay Island. One of the really quick gags that's done just in the overworld. I want
to go to Gay Island so badly.
You do.
It looks so fun.
It was a great little sequence. I mean, it's difficult platforming. So I'll also say that if you're not good at video games, maybe just watch someone do it on YouTube. Like, you should just watch a Let's Play of it.
I also can't imagine that the game that they build is anywhere near as complex as the game in the episode. Like, it seems impossible to mimic the whatever they're doing in the episode, you know, the imaginary game that they've built that can't possibly exist.
Well, what I want to tell you, Derek, is there's a substantial crafting system that they have built that mirrors what we see for a brief second from Cornelius's character.
Okay.
You can pick up anything in the world and really fuse it together. Unnecessary. It would never have been designed in a 30-year-old game, which we are led to believe this is.
Yeah.
Hilda does exist. She does exist with all of those commands built in.
Oh, that's amazing.
There's a script written for every single part of them. A lot of them don't do anything besides provide you flavor text.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can romance Hilda. You can I just brought her flowers over and over again because I was too lazy to do anything else real. And then you can destroy and rebuild the town. I was shocked that so much care, love, and energy had gone into this.
That's so fun. I mean, that's the thing that I think is really fun about this episode. You know, we have plenty to talk about specifically when we do it, but it's like, I think that they find a fun way to do a 16-bit game that looks like an old game that you would have played when you were a child, but it's sort of like, what if this game was like Skyrim? What if this game was even bigger than Skyrim, actually? And they had the throwaway line of like, this game is more complex than you can imagine, and it's just like, okay, sure, I guess so. It was just a guy with a lot of money, got the best developers to create technology that just absolutely does not fucking exist. But it's fun because then it allows you to like, they don't constrain themselves in what they're doing. It's just sort of like, because it's not a real game, it's like an animated episode, essentially. They're just animating in a way that looks like a 16-bit game. It allows them to like do a bunch of cool shit even while it still looks like a very simplistic game. And it's just like, in the rules of the universe say that it's fine that it works like this. It doesn't have to the coding of it doesn't have to make sense. I'm sure in reality it would be buggy as all hell. And that's fine. I have a question for you, since you're more knowledgeable on games than I am. Like, a lot of places when reading about this episode seem to disagree on if this is 8-bit or 16-bit, because depending on where you look, it says 8 or 16, and I really don't know the difference between the two, honestly. So
So I would argue that because of the way that the sprites look and how many different types of sprites are used. So every time, for example, a character lifts something up, their arms being up would be a different sprite sheet than their arms being down or them running or whatever. You use those various images to create very rudimentary animation.
Okay.
My argument would be that the backgrounds in general are 8-bit because they are more simple. They're more contained. You can tell where the tile set ends and starts. But the sprites themselves, I was even being like, is 16 too low? Because this is obviously something that was animated by a professional studio, and we'll talk about them in a bit. It was hard for me to really even nail down what we were talking about here, because we are blurring styles in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, because we were watching and I was like, places, like even, just like Wikipedia or whatever, when it's trying to summarize the episode, it's sort of like, it's a type of game that you would play on the Nintendo Entertainment System. And I'm like, at the bare minimum, this looks like Chrono Trigger. Like,
yes, this is a high level SNES game. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's at the bare minimum. So, but it's people talking, probably people who write about TV, writing about video games at that point, and I wouldn't know what to say. I'd just be like, it looks like an old video game. That's where that's where I stop. So
yeah, the sprite work, the animation it's flirting with like what I would describe as like PS1 level sprite animation.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah, I
mean, we're into like Mega Man X4 here. This is an incredibly animated thing. Again, shout out to Reddit user Durferman and the incredible open source community who made this game, because it looks picture perfect to what we are watching on this episode, which means that they too combined styles in order to create it.
Mm-hmm.
Greendale 7, you are hereby expelled from Greendale Community College. May God have mercy on your souls.
Beginning March 15th. One community
Not a lot of people get a second chance.
will rise again,
All difficult things are better, like curing a disease or holding in a fart right now.
and everything we know
What if we purged all the weirdness from our systems?
will change.
Listen up, men. Keep an extra deep lookout for the Greendale 7. I won't have them ruining my 25th birthday.
I'm feeling more normal already.
All the drama,
Passing grade? Like a C? Why don't I just get pregnant at a bus station?
all the passion,
What about babies?
What about them?
How many?
Pick a number, dick, like it's up to me.
all the action,
Look, tiny riot gear.
I almost out of my balls.
We de-whimsified ourselves.
Woo, woo. Jeff is in grave danger.
Great. I have to give more bad news to Jeff and his study group. Hold my calls. I have to pick an outfit.
How long does peyote last?
I was wondering how long it would take for things to get back to normal.
Let's burn this mother down!
Soon Troy and Abed will be torn asunder, and an unencumbered Troy will turn to his destiny.
experience the entertainment event of the year.
Who wants to dance?
It's interesting, Derek, as I was thinking about this episode, this is sort of a trope that we fall into of characters transported into a video game. And I thought, well, surely TV Tropes has a whole category of this, and they did not have this. Usually the stakes of this are pretty high. I think about the X-Files episode First Person Shooter, which has agents Scully and Mulder being transported into a VR game and possibly killed if they die in the game. Or it's essentially the holodeck is trying to kill us episode of Star Trek. Pick your series.
Yeah.
And I wondered, since I couldn't get a list of them, I just had to ask you directly. What's your first experience with characters trapped in a video game?
God, I wish I'd seen this question in the show notes before now, because I did not think about this ahead of time. I don't know, because I feel like that's the kind of thing that has to happen a lot on kids shows, especially in the 90s. And I know that, but I can't think of what the first iteration might have been. And I do think that the VR aspect of it, I think, is what complicates it, because I feel like in the 90s and maybe even late 80s, but especially the 90s, writers were obsessed with the concept of VR. And it's like, if it would basically be like, we're playing a video game, and then they strap a VR helmet on and are just in another universe. So I think that kind of complicates it a little bit, because I feel like a lot of the earliest things that I can think of, I remember there's a Gargoyles episode where it's essentially a VR world, or a Batman episode where the Riddler traps Commissioner Gordon in a VR world, but it's still it is more, they're technically trapped in a video game, but it is very much more meant to be VR. They're playing with the trend of virtual reality is the new reality. If you're not jacked in, you're not alive. Like,
oh my gosh, stop.
So I really don't know, because it's all VR stuff that's coming to my brain. Like, I feel like in terms of really capitalizing on these characters are playing a video game and we're watching the video game, like, it might just be this episode for me, because I guess I do remember that first person shooter episode of X-Files. That probably would have technically been the first one, but like, I think there's something different when you're literally seeing an animated like rendition of what the game actually looks like, not, you know, your actors playing them in live action. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna try to tug at your brain and see if this unlocks a core memory for you, because I thought about this question for myself too. And I mean, for all media, there was definitely a choose your own adventure book that I read as a wee little lad flipping pages that was about you, the main character, getting stuck in a video game. But I think my first experience with this trope might have been the 1992 episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? The Tale of the Pinball Wizard,
I think
where a
that
cocky arcade enthusiast becomes trapped in a video game ? Pinball machine ?
Okay. That's weird.
And at the end, he cannot escape because a giant pinball blocks him on the top of the escalator in the mall where he has been trapped in, again, a virtual ? Game. Don't know.
I vaguely remember that, so I guess that might have possibly been it too.
It's not, hey, listen, it's not clicking anything. Somebody right now is listening to this and being like, yes, I remember this episode.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you, because I'm sure there are.
You have a great answer. I mean, this is Digimon, right? Like, I've seen now 3 episodes of Digimon.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, yeah. I mean, the first Digimon World game, it starts off with your character being teleported into a video game, and it's Digimon. So, like, you know, there's definitely, like, the concept in one capacity or another has been out there ever since games were invented, right? Like, that's an easy thing. I think it's more the specificity of you're watching a character in the video game or playing a video game and seeing the video game on screen. And I think for this episode, the novelty of like, this is what the game actually looks like, you know, they're not trying to mess with it. They're not trying to play around it. They're not trying to have their actors with special effects. It is literally like, no, this is what the game looks like. This is what they're playing. You're not seeing them physically with moving the controls, but you're watching the screen that they're watching right now. And there's something really cool and unique about it, how this episode does that, I think.
And I think one of the things that makes it kind of funny to watch, especially when you're watching for this discussion, is that the characters react like they're in a high stakes situation as if their life's depended on it. They scream when they die. We learn later there's no reason to be feeling that way except for the drama for us, the viewer.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like that when I play video games. I still scream when I die play video games sometimes. You ever on a game where you're like in a high up place somewhere, and then I still just like, oh my god, like thinking that I'm going to fall off, like the exact same feeling of if I'm standing on the edge of like a tower or something in real life. So I totally
had that. Yes, I totally get that. I have screamed, so I guess I don't know why I'm pretending that I haven't.
Yeah, like no, I play video games in total silence. I don't react. I have no emotions. I just press the buttons and then turn it off.
Relevant to listeners of this podcast, my friends and I were playing the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer game on the Xbox, and we're also consuming alcohol. And at one point in time, a vampire got us from behind, and we yelled like we had never been so frightened in our lives.
That's the best, especially like. What was that, Xbox, or was that before Xbox?
It was the Xbox original Buffy that didn't come to any other systems. It looks bad. It doesn't look great.
But that makes it even scarier sometimes. I think some of the scariest stuff comes from like PlayStation 1 graphics. Oh.
Yeah, when your head was doing more of the work. I mean, it's just like it's like a Hitchcockian thing. Like if you're doing all the work, you're going to scare yourself way better than an artist will.
Yeah. Speaking of artists, what's interesting about this episode, even though we're watching a video game, it's not like they made a video game and then played it on screen. It's an animated episode. It is fully animation, which really in a lot of ways makes it even more even more ambitious, that it's like you have to do animation but make the animation look like it's a bunch of pixels in a video game. In this case, the animation was done by Titmouse Animation Studio. They'd previously animated other segments of the show, so that like whole anime segment of foosball and nocturnal vigilantism with Shirley and Jeff, I couldn't remember Jeff's name, with Jeff and Shirley in that episode, that was Titmouse that did that. So they worked with them before, so it made sense that they go back to them again. They did the animated main title sequence for Avatar: The Last Airbender. They currently do the show Lower Decks. I think they've worked on like Adult Swim stuff as well. So like the connections make sense for why they'd be pulled in for Community. This is what I wanted. This is why I held off on talking about the writer and director credits. One thing I think is kind of interesting about this episode is I think this is very much an animation-driven episode more than a writer-driven episode. So the actual writer credits are, it's written by Dan Harmon and Matt Warburton. It's interesting that Warburton's name is on this because this is his only writing credit on Community. He was an associate producer this season. Most prominently, he was a writer and then he was a story editor from like 2001 to 2012 of The Simpsons. Not the most beloved era of the show, but I do think that he wrote some pretty decent episodes from that era. He even contributed to The Simpsons game and Simpsons Hit and Run. So there's your video game connection. He's worked in video games before.
Nice.
All of that said, I have no idea what he did on this episode because in the DVD commentary, which has like, it has Dan Harmon, it has Yvette Nicole Brown, it has Joel McHale, it has Gillian Jacobs, and it has, no, those are the only ones on there. This is probably more of a Dan Harmon thing. I'm sure Matt Warburton contributed plenty to the script or came up with the idea or something. Harmon does not mention that guy once on the DVD commentary. Wow. Not once. And the other thing is that he doesn't like the episode at all. He kind of talks about how much he openly dislikes it. I will say, I think that this is occurring during not a great time in Harmon's life. I think maybe this is probably the lowest point he's at because they're recording this before this episode even airs. So it's like towards the end of the third season. It's before he's been fired. But I think during the time when the show isn't pulling in great ratings. So they're like, I think the way that they talk, it's been renewed for a fourth season, but only 13 episodes. So I think it's sort of like, so Harmon thinks he's going to do it, but it's like, this will probably be like the last 13 that we do and we're going to get canceled or whatever. And everything sucks. And the feud with Chevy is like happening right at this moment. Like I think that they're recording this like right after, you know, they had the big blow up after doing this episode. And he's like openly hungover on the commentary too. So all of that is to say, it's a fascinating listen on that commentary. You're not going to get a lot of very interesting tidbits. And really, it's mostly Dan Harmon just talking about how trash this episode is. And he takes, I guess one reason he doesn't mention Warburton is because he's taking all the blame for it. So I guess that's fine. And then all the actors just being like, what are you talking about? It's fine.
Yeah,
like it.
It's kind of fun. Yeah. I did not listen to the commentary, but I can only imagine Yvette Nicole Brown. Like she's pretty, I mean, not that she's Shirley. She's not Shirley. I have watched her on $100,000 Pyramid. She is vicious and competitive, but like I could see her being like, oh, this looks kind of fun. Like, I mean, I'm not in it very much, but I got a paycheck. So
I mean, she basically, Yvette Nicole Brown is probably my favorite person anytime I listen to the commentary because she's like, she is so good at like making very well-deserved passive-aggressive remarks.
Nice.
Show. Like in this one, she's like, oh, that's cute. She does make some funny little comments about some of the racism in the episode at certain points. But most of the time it's just sort of like, you know, she's the one who I think out of all of them was pushing back the most on Dan. It's just sort of like, if people are this deep into the season of Community, they're going to be fine. Like, what are you talking about? This is cute. It's fun. You're just supposed to just sit back and enjoy it. Come on, man. Get over yourself. And the other reason that I wanted to mention Titmouse before doing the writer credits is because I think that the Community commentaries, it's cool that they do commentaries on like every episode on their DVDs. I think they suffer from the same thing a lot of commentaries suffered because nobody does commentaries on DVDs anymore. But when commentaries were prominent, the thing they suffered from often is like, it's very your main writers and your actors, and that is it. And especially in animation, Simpsons commentaries are really bad about very rarely having actual animators or animation directors involved in it. This is a commentary that I think really needed the actual somebody from the animation department on there because that's what makes this episode so interesting. And Dan even says at the beginning, just sort of like, I know Titmouse did it. I don't know how they did it. And that's like all they say about it. And I'm like, And then I'm like, yeah, because most of the jokes and most of the cool things from this episode aren't coming from Dan Harmon's brain. Like, no wonder he doesn't like it. It's coming from like what you're seeing visually on screen and what the animators did for it, you know? The director for this episode also wasn't on the commentary, Adam Davidson. I don't really know how much he did with this episode either. It might be the case where he only directed the live action footage, and that's why he's credited. And then Titmouse probably had their own animation directors that should have been, in my opinion, credited as co-directors if that was the case. But they're just like, Titmouse did the animation, and then that's enough, I guess. Whatever. Because the reason I don't know that Adam Davidson did anything with the animation is because he's very much a live action genre director. Like he did it.
Yeah, he's like a workaday guy. Like he's done everything.
Yeah, like he only did eight episodes of Community, but he didn't do any of the episodes that had animation in them. And he's done like Lost, Fringe, Elementary, like all that kind of stuff. He doesn't do animated work. So my theory is that they brought him in to direct the live action footage for a couple of days. And that's what he got credited for. Yeah. But really, this is Titmouse's episode. So
yeah, but it even seems like if you look at the history of Titmouse, like they're probably being treated much like a contractor for all of these episodes they did with Community, not a creative collaborator. I mean, I think this studio is very interesting now that they're working on Lower Decks, probably their like biggest project, but they got started doing like opening animatic cinema for like award shows, which is a needed thing. But it's, you know, it's like the birth of a young new studio, and that's cool.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get someone who works on Titmouse on our podcast one day. I don't know.
Let's do it. Cool. I'm ready.
Yeah. And one of the things that was always interesting about Community, especially at this time, is that it was notable for being a very expensive show for how much it did, for you know, all the innovative stuff that it did, but that also meant that, like, since it wasn't pulling in huge ratings, from a corporate standpoint, as much of a critical darling as it was, from a corporate standpoint, maybe not very cost effective. According to Harmon on the commentary, one of the things that I thought was most interesting from there that he said was that, like, the main reason that they move forward with letting them do an animated episode, which you would think maybe would be more expensive or more complicated to do, but Harmon was like, it actually was right on the nugget budget wise, because the episode was mostly animated. Yeah, the animation was expensive, but they also only needed one small set, one guest actor, a couple of days of filming. So like it all kind of evened out really. And it even put them back on schedule because Community, I think, was very notoriously behind schedule on shooting and turning in scripts and stuff. So because there only needed to be a couple of days to film the live action footage, like, and they just tacked that on to the end of production. This was the last episode in their production order, like the last stuff that they filmed for the season. They just threw that in there. There's a whole episode filmed and done and in the can now. You know, and they can let the animation studio figure out the rest. So it made sense to like justify it. And I probably just general development had started very early on in the show. The result of that, though, I think is kind of interesting story-wise, because they didn't really know where the season was going to be by the time it hit the end of the season. I think Harmon was like, yeah, we knew they were going to get expelled at some point, but that was really all we had planned out at the top when we started developing this episode, because they had to start early for the animation. So they're sort of like, we're just going to design a basic standalone that's not tied into anything other than, you know, the Vegas bits of continuity with Pierce's father, right? But because it took so long to develop it, that meant that when it finally aired, it was like right plopped in the middle of this.
That makes a lot of sense. Because, you know, obviously I didn't get to the don't play the next episode fast enough. So it started playing the next episode and it's like the Greendale 7 have been expelled. And I was like, oh my God, I forgot that this was going on.
Yeah.
Like, this is a substantially climactic end to season 3. And this is kind of like, it is kind of a drag right there in the middle of that like big arc.
Yeah, it's even weirder because, you know, the episode before this ends not exactly on a cliffhanger, but it's sort of urgent. It's just sort of like, oh my God, the dean has been kidnapped. We've got to rescue him, even though we're expelled from Greendale. And then this episode starts and it's like, let's go play a video game. And it's like, wait, what? You know, you just kind of have to consider it out of I think Troy shouldn't be with them because he technically had started with the air conditioning repair school in the last episode. Like, you have to just take it out of continuity or place it earlier, right? But what's really super weird is that, like, it's hard to do that at the time. I remember this affecting my reception of the episode when it aired because NBC was trying to burn off the last few episodes of the show.
Oh, sure.
So the last 3 episodes, including this one, they aired on one night as part of one block. So basically you have the week before ends with like this big, like, jumping off of like this final really dark arc. That's, as silly as it is genuinely pretty dramatic. And then it's sort of like your finale event begins, and it starts with this episode that's basically out of continuity, has nothing to do with anything. This episode airs, and it's like 22 minutes. You have to kind of wait for this one to be over to get to like the actual meat of the story and get back into what you were left off with, which is like not a good experience with watching this episode. And I remember it made me be like, when I was watching it, I read it back in my old review that I wrote, where it was just sort of like, I appreciate what it's doing. It's cool. But like, I feel like I was just waiting for the next thing to happen. Like I was waiting to get past this for the next episode because the stakes of this episode are so low,
Right.
Which is not the fault of the episode or anything. It's very much the fault of like Sony and NBC and circumstances and stuff. But it is sort of like, it was just weird. It's just weird that's the way that it happened,
Well, you are rewarded because the next episode does open with the study group talking to a police officer who's played by character actor Craig Kakowski, who is gorgeous. So there's at least that.
Yeah, that's good.
I didn't know that the commentaries were filmed before the episodes aired. That's very also interesting. Just as like a moment in time, because you're right, commentaries have sort of died off. Oh, they've been replaced by podcasts. Take that, TV. We're here now.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild.
It depends on the commentary, like when they're doing it. Yeah, you'll find it both ways. I think for the community ones, it does make the third season community commentaries a really interesting listen, because it's like there are very frequent times when it's just sort of like, well, Dan, next season you can do X, and I'm like,
right.
No, you won't, buddy. Just you'll get some bad news in about a month after you record this.
That's hilarious. Compare that to Simpsons DVD commentaries where they're like, God, this was like 25 years ago. I have no idea what was going on.
Oh, the funniest thing, this is such a tangent, the funniest thing about Simpsons commentaries is that like, I'll credit the Talking Simpsons podcast for like calling this out when they find them, because they will listen to the commentaries whenever they cover episodes, and they will pinpoint times when the commentaries were recorded, like for what episode. And you can like align that with episodes that are then produced in later seasons, where it's like you watch this episode, were reminded of like characters or plot beats that you'd forgotten about, and then write an episode that's like a sequel to that episode or bringing that character back. So you'll see like a lot of season, like stuff from like season, I don't know, I remember like 13 maybe, that are like suddenly calling back to like season 3 or 4, and it's because like Al Jean was watching some commentaries and now he's writing an episode and brought back characters from that commentary he just watched. So yeah,
that is hilarious. I will tell you that also happened in Buffy. They were doing a commentary, and I believe it was with Seth Green. And Seth Green said one of the most evil things you could say is not like talk to you later, but just TTYL, and then like step away because it's so weird to do internet speak in person. And then he had the first do that as one of their characters before she blipped away.
Oh wow.
Oh, it's Ta-ta for now, TTFN.
That is so funny.
Yeah. But let's jump into this episode. So let's listen. We got this set for like a day. I know what's going on budget wise. We jump right in. There is no preamble. No. The inciting incident is there. The study group has entered this nondescript warehouse area, and Jeff just launches into, "Hey Pierce, what's the premise of the episode?"
Pierce, you made us all drive out to a warehouse in the middle of nowhere. You could at least tell us why.
Hey, I know as much as you. I got a letter from the executor of my father's estate. Said to come out here with my 7 closest friends.
You brought 6.
Well, who else was he gonna bring?
LeVar Burton was a maybe.
Mr. Hawthorne! No! I apologize.
Gilbert! Even from the grave, my father's got you by the short and curly salt and pepperies.
My name is Gilbert Lawson. I was Cornelius Hawthorne's assistant for over 30 years. And before that, I was just a teenager who read the Bible to him in the bath.
Ew.
All right. It's inheritance time. How about that check, soul brother?
Your father did leave you something, but it's more of an activity.
Thank you for keeping it as creepy as possible.
They meet Gilbert, who explains that Pierce's inheritance is based on winning this video game, because Pierce had once told his father, Cornelius, that video games were going to be more important than moist towelettes. All of the characters are seated and pictures are taken in order to create game sprites of each of them.
Yes.
What did you think about this opening scene, Derek?
I liked the opening title sequence. It's fine. You know, the opening scene, it's just like, yeah, it's very fast. Jump right into it. I have really nothing to say about it, really. I like seeing Giancarlo Esposito. I mean, he's really good in this episode. He's really good in this show the couple of times that he pops up. I think he was, you know, obviously already known for Breaking Bad, but I think he was also in the middle of filming Once Upon a Time at the same time as he was doing this. So like the dude was just working, right?
Gorgeous man. I will also say that if you have not watched the Netflix heist series Kaleidoscope, he is the main character and he is the one in charge of the heist, which makes him even better and more attractive as a person.
Yeah, but he's fun in this. I mean, they make the most of his ability to say things ominously and villainously without actually making him a villain, which I appreciate quite a lot. I like that they ultimately, you know, jumping to the end, like ultimately he's a very sympathetic character, but they utilize his ominous presence early on very, very well.
Yeah. So as Derek mentioned, the usual title sequence has been replaced with the scan of each character along with their actor attribution until we get to Chevy Chase. Because Chase's contract had his billing as an it doesn't feature his character getting it at the same time as everyone else. But it looks really good. I will say that I'm very Annie in this moment. The sprites are so cute. I think they are very lovingly made.
Another thing from the commentary, I was like, there's not really that much interesting but now, and then I'm like pulling tons of facts from the commentaries. One of the things Harmon says, which again, very funny knowing the context of their feud. Apparently Chevy's sprite originally was like, first of all, Chevy was the only person apparently who had any comments about the likeness, is what they all said. Like everybody else was sort of like, yeah, everybody was like, they're cute, I love these. Like nobody had any complaints or whatever, or you know, maybe didn't feel like they wanted to complain or should complain. Could be also part of it too, I don't know. But nobody made a complaint except for Chevy, and his original sprite apparently was more like a gray corpse-like tone. Like said he was closer to death, because if you notice, like everybody's sprite has a completely different skin tone to it. Like, you know, that doesn't necessarily matter. Like Annie's skin tone is like just pure white. Like they ran out of color for her.
Like porcelain.
Totally pale. Yes. So, you know, they were trying to do a different one for him. And apparently he was like, no, I demand to have more of like a pink, like vivacious color in me. So they were forced to like make him look like more of a living person, I guess. Wow. And that was the only comment anyone had on the sprites, apparently.
Wow. I wish I could see that one. I like the way his sprite looks. I think that it communicates that he is older than the rest of them, because you don't see his eyes in his glasses, which is a technique you use to help sort of paint that picture for someone. I think they're all.
He looks so nervous. He looks so nervous too. It's such a cute. He's just like worried the entire time.
But all their images get loaded in and they're beamed over to the study room from Greendale Community College? Question mark.
Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, I know that I guess his dad knows that Pierce has been going to, I guess the justification is that Pierce has been going to Greendale for such a long time.
That's true.
That he would know that. But the specific study room is still a little suspect because they worked on this game for 30 years. Like, did they just throw in a patch at the last minute right before his dad died of the starting of the study room? Like, it's fine.
but that's where everyone gets loaded into.
Nice. Cool. Old school. Cool.
Which one is me? I assume nothing because I'm not racist.
Aww, we're adorable.
Why did this thing take photos if it was going to completely fabricate random body shapes?
That's what I'm saying. My hair looks good, though. Orange button is jump.
We get a great Britta moment where Britta asks which one she is because I assume nothing. I'm not racist. Britta, you're the worst.
I think I love Britta in this episode so much. Britta. And I think that like for all the, you know, the ironic racism stuff that ends up happening in the game, I do always love her reactions and everything that they do with how she, as like, you know, a performative white liberal person, not unlike us in some cases. Hopefully we're just less performative than she is and a little smarter about it. But like always coming from a good place, but like the sort of stuff, the obliviously ignorant stuff that she'll say when trying to be in good faith throughout this whole episode is just so funny.
Yeah. I've listeners will know that I went to social work school. I was a social worker, and throughout school, I went to school with tons of Britas. And so it's like I'm right back in intro class, listening to these folks just be like, no, I'm not racist. And then you get to the end of school and you're like, wow, I'm the most racist person ever. This is great. Which is really the journey. And, Brita goes on a little bit of it. So credit where it's due.
Yeah.
And I'll also offer to all the Britas out there, performance does matter. It's important for people to hear and see that in the world. Just back it up with something that's a little bit more substantive.
Brita's heart is always in the right place. I love her for trying. Just misses the mark sometimes. I think she gets some stuff right in this episode, as much as she gets it wrong. But yeah, it's always very funny.
And even if you're not familiar with the episode, you are familiar with the meme of Brita who says, I can excuse racism, but not blank.
Yeah.
Which is that character in a heartbeat. All the characters are looking at their sprites. Shirley does remark on the absurdity of having their pictures taken if they were just going to look how they do. Jeff agrees, but then in a very Jeff moment says like, but my hair looks good.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah, I forget. It happens another time later in the episode, but like they both will do a thing where like Shirley comments on her looks or her character's looks, and Jeff is the only one that's on the exact same spectrum. Like I do love that little connection they have. Like, they're both like kind of vain and really vain and or self-conscious in like slightly different ways. But like that's a thing that like links them inherently together. Like they're so yeah.
And Jeff discovers that the orange button is jump. They seem to be sitting at computers, so I'm not sure also what the orange button is, but good for them. Good for them.
God. Oh, they're jumping. They're constant. Troy's constant jumping.
And I've got to say, Troy's jump, again, because this game has been recreated, the sprite sheets are available. Troy's jump is different than everyone else's. Everyone else is doing the Mega Man thing where your arms are, up. Troy has a somersault. It's got... We're Samus Arianing here. And it looks so good. It is so cute, but it is a lot of added frames. So if you want to animate yourself a Troy, you're tucking in for it because it is a lot more complicated.
It's also just like it's so true to life. Like Troy plays video games exactly like I do. He is just jumping constantly. You'll see throughout the episode, like he's never just standing. Everybody else, I think, like naturally stands in a normal spot, and he'll always just be like on the roof, like in the middle of a backflip or something like that. Like he's just like you're taking advantage of the video game space. Like it's so funny. It's so good.
And if you haven't seen the episode, but you did play Super Mario Brothers 3 for the NES, it gives you Mario Got a Superstar and your jumpin' vibes. That's the somersault that we're talking about here.
Yeah, totally.
And I'll just also say that the jump noise, it's a good noise. And you need a noise when you jump. Like Derek, whenever I play video games, I'm constantly jumping. I think it makes you move faster. It doesn't, but...
It feels like it, though.
It feels faster.
Yeah.
And a good jump button makes a huge difference, I think, in everyone's lives.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree.
But Ahmed sees a door. He goes through it. Very Ahmed. The group follows and they encounter hippies. Annie at first thinks they're cute because they are cute. But she is attacked. Jeff goes to save her, but accidentally kills her.
What's that?
I think it's a hippie. Peace, love.
Aww.
Annie, stop awing everything.
Don't be jaded. He's saying peace. Hello.
Sex.
Did he say sex?
Sex.
Oh my God!
Hold on, I'm coming.
Oh!
Darn. Shoot.
Damn it. Jeff, you just murdered Annie.
Well, better than doing nothing.
I'm not sure that's the case.
debatable.
You guys, help me.
The way you helped Annie?
Sex.
Before we engage, we should hang back and study their tactics.
What? Oh my God!
And this is where we learn that if you die in the game, you respawn back in the study room. Annie and Jeff return to the room and see that the others have dealt with the hippies accordingly, and they move on. Right before this scene cuts, though, we get a sprite that we haven't seen before. We'll later learn that this is Gilbert. He arrives and deftly takes care of an enemy sprite really quickly, showing us that he knows this game. And that's going to be important, obviously, for the plot of this episode.
Yeah. I mean, it's It's fun. I don't really have anything else to say about this one. So they show up in the forest after that. The group is welcome in the game world by the disembodied head of Cornelius. I forget the actor's name. He's from Deadwood, but it's the same guy who played Pierce's dad in a previous episode, returning to voice him here. It's basically just like the Colonel Sanders' floating disembodied head, essentially.
Now what?
Welcome to Hawkthorne.
That's Dad's voice. Dad?
Pierce and all. In 1980, you said that video games, not moist towelettes, were the business of the future. Today, moist towelettes are stocked in every supermarket, while arcade after arcade closes.
He's got a point.
Nevertheless, I designed this game to be played upon my death by you and whatever cabal of fruits, junkies, and sluts you call your friends.
Her name is Britta.
Only one player can win. The first to reach my throne inside Castle Hawkthorne. Their reward, Pierce, will be your inheritance.
What? So your eggs are raised.
So you see, Pierce, turns out you were right. Video games are important. Worst son ever!
Well, great.
So that's why they hear it's an old-fashioned competition to get the inheritance thing, ultimately. Which Pierce immediately has, like, no good response. He's just like, all right. He digs a hole for himself and just prepares to die, essentially.
But good news, Derek, friendship prevails. The study group comes through and tells Pierce, don't worry, like, we're here for you, man. We're not going to take your inheritance. And it's funny because we almost have this fun thing that Community, I think, did a lot of television was doing at this time, which is like, here comes the A plot, choo choo. And then it's off the rails because we're not going to do this competition thing. That's not what it's about. Mm-hmm. Instead, we've got Gilbert coming to encourage very ominously the group to compete. And when they refuse, he shows us this complicated crafting system. He makes weapons on the fly and absolutely murders the group, eventually burying Pierce in the ground where he suffocates after 3 seconds.
The fact that you can suffocate people is great.
And again, we mentioned it at the top, but this is one of those moments that like Pierce is like, oh no, I'm suffocating. And then like he gets cut off mid-sentence, which you wouldn't do because it's not like he's actually dying.
Yeah. Yeah. Like just the game, like cut off your microphone when you die,
maybe. That makes more sense.
But still, yeah, no, it's funny. The little flourishes are great. But we cut back into the real world where the group is like pissed off because like they've just learned that they're competing for the inheritance. There are actual stakes. And then this dude just shows up and just like immediately murders them. Like, what the fuck, man? Gilbert's like, your seats have weight sensors. If you step away for 30 seconds, you're going to forfeit the game and nobody gets the inheritance. So yikes.
Yeah. And this is another one of those moments that the camera's got, it's on Real World, Jeff and Shirley, and they both go weight sensor.
Yeah, that's the other thing. That's the other moment I was thinking of. Yeah.
And it's a girl because you're right. They both are so vain, but in such different ways.
Yeah.
But we're back in the game world. The group rallies. They're ready to take it on. They breeze through the hallway and get back to the forest where they find a note that Gilbert left for them that sort of mocks Pierce and says, when I win this, I'm going to be watching you from the top of the tower, just watching you be penniless and sad. And it makes him want to give up again. But the group tries to cheer him up. Britta in particular comes and is successful in cheering him up. She goes to hug him and punches him and kills him because there is no hug button.
Yep.
Just another Britta moment.
There's friendly fire in this game. Dang. That's always a really tough realization when you're playing something and then realize, oh shit, I can kill my friends. I wish someone had told me that.
That's when I dip out of a multiplayer game because I play every game like a barbarian. No matter what my character is, I run right in and just swing.
Yeah. I'm like, give me the shotgun, get up and close. No one get in my way.
That's how I live. Derek, this is terrifying knowing this about both of us. Like now that I know that we're both barbarian class, it's just rough times ahead, I think.
Yep. Not great.
But we're on a commercial break. We come back from the break and Jeff's doing the job of recapping what you missed in the first act of the episode, which is great. Yeah. He's like, okay, so we're here in this virtual world. We've got to make sure Pierce wins so that he gets his inheritance. And if we die, we go back to the beginning. Everyone clear?
Everybody keep Pierce protected. We have to get him to the throne of Hawkthorne before Gilbert. And don't forget, when you die, you go all the way back to the study room. So don't die.
Good pep talk, Jeff.
Yeah, I used to love dying, but that speech really turned me around.
Whatever.
Imagine dropping in on this episode halfway through, especially if you're like if you're savvy, you'll get what's going on. But if you're just like a regular ass person who's just turning on NBC to see what fun family or workplace sitcom is on, and then you see fucking this, like, what are you?
I love this because it's also like you need to do this in sitcom. I understand, like, I know how TV works.
It's so absurd.
Like sometimes you do get somebody coming late to the play, and you kind of need to remind them what's going on. But it's outrageous, and it does end with a nice little sting where Shirley says, "Thanks for telling us not to die, Jeff. I was thinking about dying, but now you've really turned me around." It's a great moment. Yeah. Excellently performed by Yvette Nicole Brown.
Yes, she's good. She's one of my faves. Very underrated in this show, I think. So they go to town now. Abed engages Hilda, who we referenced earlier. She's like the character you can romance in this game, essentially. Engages Hilda in conversation, and she reveals the way to beat the game, which is getting the white crystal of discipline freed from the black caverns. Yikes. The group splits up, but Abed remains with Hilda, and he begins to fall in love with her. So there's a lot to unpack in this one little scene here. I mean, here's the thing. Community, I think, is interesting because it's in this point in time where I think, like, ironic racism is sort of like the thing in comedy where it's like we have
100%.
Yeah, like I don't remember where in the notes, or maybe I missed it earlier. I think you referenced it as like comparing it to like kind of the South Parkification of a lot of comedy. Cause it's even, I mean, this isn't even like the worst stuff is sort of later on, but I think this is kind of where it starts, where it's a thing where like ironic racism in itself is so weird because it's like writers or comedy writers are recognizing like, yeah, we understand that you're not supposed to make racist jokes because that is harmful. Get that. We're on your side. So what we're going to do is have the perspective of racists making those racist jokes, and we're making fun of the racist, right? But the thing is, like, you're still seeing the racist jokes. So like it ends up usually being like just an avenue for a writer to still tell the same racist jokes, but just be like, yeah, but like, we're on your side though, right? Like, isn't this dumb that someone would say this? Like, it's bad, right? But you're still like seeing it. So, and it makes it like weird because it's sort of like, that's, I think, when you get a lot of comedians pushing back, just like, well, you can't say anything these days. They're making fun of the racists. And it's just like, but you can, there are ways to make fun of racists without literally having like a traditional minstrel face outlining a cavern like they do later on in the episode, you know?
I did call it the South Parkification. It's about this, like, we're sort of rude to everyone, and that kind of makes it okay. We're making the villain do it, so you're supposed to understand that this is a villainous act and ergo bad. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Derek. Like, it's still harmful for viewers who have to live in a very oppressive society where they are confronted by this in a very real way, and it's not yet time to laugh at it. So I've got to kind of like, 30 Rock did this a lot. 30 Rock's really guilty of this, kind of the same time frame that the episodes are coming out. Just that racism is so silly or funny, and it comes from someone who's very ignorant or the villain.
Yeah.
But we know that it doesn't. We know that it comes from people in power. And so that's where I think we bump into a little bit of this.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that Community, I think, is an interesting case for is that, like, I do think they do a better job than a lot of other shows at the time did of having characters who would call it out as harmful when it happened.
Yeah.
And it is sort of like, this is an example of something you should, like, this is like, I remember, you know, the D&D episode that was like pulled from Netflix for having like Chang in, like, you know, dark elf drow makeup that obviously is meant to sort of like hearken to like blackface, right? It's pulled for that. But like, I think like it does have Shirley literally looking at him being like, we're all seeing this hate crime happening here, right? And then he disappears from the whole episode, you know? Like, I think that, like, the Community did that a lot. I think having characters who were willing to speak up against it was part of their characterization. Like, the fact that it did, for the most part, always have black characters in its cast who it is part of their characterization to be the types of people who would be like, that's a fucked up thing you just said. What are you talking about? So, like, they were always pretty good about calling it out, or like with Britta, like, I think pointing out, you know, the hypocrisy of a lot of white people and stuff like that too. So like, I think that this show did engage with like racism in interesting ways sometimes, but it's still would just, it was like, you know, both sides of it. It would also suffer from like having a little too much fun with being able to come up with creative new ways to be racist at the same time, you know?
Yeah. And what that tells me as a consumer of media is that's somewhere in you as like the artist. Like there's something that you maybe need to deal with as well, that you're trying to come to terms with. And this is where I'm not going to come out on the side of Chevy Chase on this little feud that we've been talking around. I know we're going to get deeper into, but one of his complaints I actually think is pretty reasonable, which is that he was tired of having to say these really awful words all the time.
Yeah.
That he felt like it was just a matter of time before he was going to be asked to say something that was really, really harmful to his coworkers.
Sure.
And that's weird to think about when you're thinking about how this word gets written. Actors have to say it, other actors have to hear and react to it. And it really takes that conversation to a very different space about like how the art is made.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and it is like, it's a weird situation for this episode because it's like Pierce's dad's main characterization and that is that he's like one of the most prejudiced, like old rich white men on earth. So like, it totally does make sense in the context of the world that if this guy was in charge of making a video game with villains in it, it would be the most racist game ever made. Right.
And ableist and homophobic. And we get it all when we go to the world map later. It's all there, gang.
It's just weird because I understand how you get to this point in this game, but I do have to wonder if there's a way to like play into that guy's, you know, acknowledge that it's coming from his brain without seeing some of the imagery that we do.
Right.
Like, I don't know that the white crystal black caverns thing, I think maybe is like if they're going to go this route of like, this is a racist guy making a video game, I think that would make sense because it's a metaphorical thing that they're like, oh, if you think about this, it's like you could, the white and black thing, you see what's happening here. Right. I think that like that one's fine. I think it really is when you get to the world map and literally see the imagery of it and have Britta actually fighting quote unquote jive turkeys. Like, I think that's when it's just sort of like, it goes over the top and over the line, like in unnecessary ways. Like we got it. Like if everything was metaphorical, like that would make a lot. I think that would work perfectly fine, you know? So I don't know.
100% agree. But before we leave the scene, I was just going to say, you got this quote on here. And I was like, why did Derek put this quote on here? I don't think this is that funny. And I read it again and I was like, God, David, you are the stupidest person ever.
You can usually get supplies in a town like this. Man, why can't my mom be here? She always said my video game knowledge would come in handy. I never believed her.
I had to just like own my ignorance for a second. I was like, I don't think that's funny. I moved on. It is the opposite of what you would normally expect a parent to be saying, which is this is never going to do any good in real life. And here it is making a difference. And I had to explain that joke for listeners because I, in fact, did not get it.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a sec. I mean, it's so good because also Donald Glover's delivery of it is really good because like he doesn't make a joke out of the line. He just says it.
No, he's like genuinely crestfallen.
He says it very matter of factly. Like she always said my video game knowledge would come in handy, but I never believed her. And it's like, it's just the reversal of it. It's a very like Simpsons Futurama style wordplay joke.
It's a very good joke.
Because you almost could just sort of miss it, that it's just like you're saying the most cliched thing ever and just matter-of-factly turning it on his head and then moving on and not even acknowledging that it's the exact reverse of every cliche you've ever seen for this.
All right, so Abed is out with Hilda, but the rest of the group pairs up and they've gone to explore the village. Annie and Shirley arrive at the blacksmith who sells them weapons and armor, but they have no money. So Annie asks if she can just borrow a torch. She steals it. She's asked to turn it back. She accidentally throws it at the blacksmith. He's set on fire. Worried that he is suffering, Annie grabs an axe and puts him out of his misery. Meanwhile, Troy and Pierce are at the tavern. Not a lot happening here. Troy's jumping around. It's excellent. It's beautiful. It's cute. Yeah. We learn that you can play poker, and Pierce is excited about that. And Jeff and Britta arrive in an abandoned house.
Check the desk. I'll check the dresser.
How do I straighten that painting?
You can't. Stop playing like a girl.
Stop playing like a girl? Here's the thing about women, Jeff. We don't hack and slash our way through life because we're one with life.
And this is where I write, God, Britta is so good, in quotations, because she's the worst. She says, here's the thing about women, Jeff. We don't hack and slash our way through life because we're one with life. It's a wonderful little montage of what the characters are doing out in the village.
Yeah, but what's real? I think the setup of that is so fucking good because it's literally Bretta says that about women, that they don't hack and slash their way through life, and immediately after we smash cut back to Annie and Shirley, and they're fucking like destroying the life of this blacksmith that they like chopped up with an axe. Annie's hiding the body, and like Shirley's like, what the fuck? And Annie's like, this is just how people play video games.
Help me hide the body.
Oh my lord, oh my lord.
Shirley, these things happen in video games.
They do?
Yes. We can't get hung up on real world morality. We need to survive and win.
Hello, I'm the blacksmith's wife. Help.
Oh, crap.
Guard the door.
Help. Help.
Shirley!
No witnesses! Grab everything you can carry. I'll check upstairs for any more family. And don't give me that look. These are your loose ends. I'm just tying them up.
And so Shirley's like, okay. And then she like murders the blacksmith's husband and then searches for any more family to make sure that there's no witnesses. It's like, I'm just cleaning up the mess that you made. Like, it's so fucking, I love when Shirley goes dark. Like, I love the darkness that she has in her. And it's like I mean, it's nothing innovative. It's like a person with a nice exterior is actually kind of mean inside. But I fucking love it with Shirley because if at Nicole Brown, she can turn that on in a dime. It's like
tone change is so good.
It's so fucking good. Yeah.
Derek, I've got to go back just a quick beat.
Yeah.
You said the blacksmith's husband. I wish it is the blacksmith's wife. But wow, what a queer Freudian slip in this moment, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it, man. I'm here for it.
Look, they show off that giant blacksmith's like bare butt when he dies. I think his wife has like a mustache or something. The way that they draw her with too. Funny enough.
Yeah. So we're back in the world, or back in the game town. Pierce and Troy arrive. They're naked because they've lost their clothes playing poker. And Shirley and Annie stumble back in with lots of weapons and armor, being very innocent about what's just happened. We just went shopping. Don't worry about it. This is, we get a little bit more of Abed with Hilda. They're all together. We cut back really quickly to Britta and Jeff. Britta is combining ingredients to make what she assumes is a potion in a secret potion basement that they have discovered after going downstairs from the painting. What Britta combines are 2 eyes, 1 arm, ? 2 frogs, and 4 stars. And she makes what she assures Jeff is a strength potion. And Jeff implies that it is probably poison. I didn't know what we'd want to do for introduction, so I grabbed this one for you just in case you wanted to use it. Okay. Great quote. This place is 20 cat turds and a Pixies poster away from being your apartment. It's a great line from Jeff.
Yeah. So back in the outside in the town, Hilda is mourning the loss of her father, the blacksmith.
What's with the St. Pauli girl?
Hilda's parents live there. Now she has no family. She'll be forced to marry a male villager or take her chances in the wilderness.
What kind of game is this?
I love like that they're tying these characters' backstories together. Also, I just want to point out, it reminds me like the sort of like, I don't know how you describe it, like the voices of the video game characters are so good. Like, what is even the word for the sounds that they're making?
That's a good question. It's one I don't know yet, as we haven't gotten to any voice stuff, but it's done with an audio card that you would find on a machine like a Super Nintendo or like a maybe even a version up, but not voiced. So it's constructing sounds that make a voice-like sound when you put them together. Probably the best example I could give folks would be Star Fox on the N64, that sort of cobbled together these bits in order to make quotes come out for folks, where you can sort of hear things. But it obviously, because this is not actually a video game, these are done through a recording and a modulation of an unnamed person for Hilda, because we do have credits for the other folks, but Hilda and her father were not credited. So I don't know if it was just Loop Group or what.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, well, they sound very cute, especially when they're crying about the deaths of their family members.
Yeah.
Abed talks about her fate, that she must marry another man in the village or brave the wilderness, prompting Troy to ask, what kind of game is this?
It's such a great moment. It's such a great moment because you're like, wow, what the hell? This is so much that's going on here.
Why did they programmed in all of these like interior lives from all of these characters in like the horrible way. Again, it's kind of like Skyrim, I guess, but even Skyrim doesn't do like shit like that. And Gilbert returns, letting the group know that he's actually gained enough levels to shoot lightning at them, so he's just demolishing them. But Jeff and Britta return to the group, and Jeff tells Britta, like, hey, use that super strength potion you made. Britta can't even manage to, like, find the buttons to drink the potion until, before she dies, dropping the potion. And Gilbert buys into the ruse that Jeff is throwing out there. He's sort of like, oh, strength potion, eh? Ha ha ha. Well, fuck you guys. Drinks it. But of course, because Britta'd it, it's actually poison, turns Gilbert into a skeleton and he dies.
It's so great. It's so wonderful. And again, it's another one of those moments where he has a death scream. But like,
yeah,
he's just out in the warehouse hallway. Like it's great though. It's so great.
Yeah.
The skeleton looks great. It's a great little death sequence.
Yeah.
But we cut back to the real world. We've got this great picture of Gilbert in the frame, and he has, you can tell non-verbally, he has decided enough is enough, and he goes back into the game, but activates various cheat codes so that he alone can win the game. The cheat codes are mostly what you'd expect, like invincibility, super dash, everything like that. There are a couple of visual gags on here. One is testicular fortitude, and one is giraffe mode. I thought giraffe mode was actually the funniest. I don't think testicular fortitude is all that funny. It's just the word testicle, which is, always gets a little grin. A little bit of a missed opportunity, I think, for some more visual gags on this one.
I will say, you know what? I wonder if it's like, because I don't know who was doing the computer, inputs necessarily. That might not have necessarily been Titmouse, because a lot of the stuff in the actual game itself are pretty intense deep cuts. Like, there was like a Tumblr post that broke down every single one of Hilda's prompts that she has. And I'll probably just put it in the show notes because it's really interesting to read through it, because like some of them are like really deep cuts to like actual games that existed, around that time, like stuff from like Pokemon Red and Blue, stuff from Super Mario Brothers 2, stuff from Donkey Kong, stuff from Battletoads. Like, and sometimes I think I think the Tumblr user is sort of guessing like whether that is necessarily true or not. But like some of it it seems kind of obvious that like it would make sense that this had to come from this game. And I do think that like I think that there's a lot of love put into the video game itself.
Yeah.
But anything on the outside in live action, I think maybe the video game stuff is a little bit, not half-assed, but like not coming from the same place, You're
absolutely right, because there are 3 terminal scenes. There's the load up screen, which is really just like alphanumerics on the screen, nothing to see at all. Mm-hmm. There's the end scene, which is where Abed downloads Hilda, spoiler alert for later in our conversation. Mm-hmm. And then there's this middle scene where he's enabling the cheat codes, and they're all kind of boring. They're just straight up kind of boring, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And you're right, those are probably done by someone in production on the usual side, and not Titmouse, who probably did all of the animation.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think Titmouse is the real hero of this episode.
Yeah.
By a wide margin.
But Gilbert's little cheat work takes us out of the act, and we are back from commercial break into a different forest in the game world. We do another little recap, in case you missed it, of what's going on. What are the stakes? What are we doing here? And the group is saying goodbye to Abed because he intends to remain in town with Hilda to help her be successful, since Annie and Shirley murdered her family. Britta does make it back to the group, which is just like a resetting things to normal. There's nothing to report, except Britta comes back and is like, how did you survive? And they go, oh, just teamwork. Don't worry about it. Which is a good little gag.
Yeah.
And then we do a little world map montage, which is great. So the game point of view zooms out, and we've got the characters walking on what I would describe as a Super Mario World map. It's got the little nodes for each area, and you're kind of walking along a predetermined path. And the group goes through the game map. First, they go through the Valley of Laziness, which Britta remarks, racist called it as they leave. with some insensitive racial stereotypes against Mexicans. They then go on to Gay Island.
I do like
Pierce
Gay.
remarks,
I
you
like
did
the
great
Gay
at that
Island.
one, Jeff.
Yeah, I do like the Gay Island. Just literally just looks like a dick. It's an easy joke, but you know what? They make it work.
Wow. The asexuality is strong because did not notice that looked like a dick. I
Yeah.
will be immediately going back to see it.
It's just a dick and balls. I think there might even be, I might be embellishing it, but I feel like there's even like smoke coming out of the
That's
dick
great.
tower, white smoke, you know? So,
That's great.
Yeah.
And then they get on the free ride ferry, which is the image of a wheelchair, on their way to the Black Cave. And that's sort of our world map where we get a sense of who Cornelius was. Just like Derek said, this guy is ableist, he's homophobic, he's racist, and we get to see all of that on display with these levels that were created.
Yeah, some of the worst jokes just come from that world map. I appreciate the specificity of design. Not amazing, especially the Black Cave, but we've already touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's rough.
Because it opens with the group riding a bridge of drumsticks over lava.
It's rough, Derek. It's rough.
Oh boy, I will say this is what Yvette Nicole Brown was like commenting on when they were watching, because it's actually funny because at first she's like trying to be very like, you know, amicable about it, like they're showing up on the drumsticks. She's like, oh, well, a lot of people like fried chicken. That's not a racist thing. And then suddenly the chive turkeys show up and she says, oh, it's like 70s racism. And then she's like, oh, that's bad. I didn't notice that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God. This cave is the worst.
I know. I don't know what's more offensive, the actual racism or the insulting notion that might somehow rub off on us. Look out! Drive turkeys! Kill them before they start multiplying! Gobble that!
And I will say, this is one of my favorite Brita jokes of the episode, though, because I think this is actually a really smart commentary on how stuff like this works. Because Brita, they're in this very racist Black Cave. Brita's like, you know, I really like. She's like, they like designed it thinking that like the game's excessive racism is gonna rub off on all of us, and she's trying to just be like, I'm so woke that I will never be racist. And then as soon as she's like saying that it's sort of like, I see the racism that's going on, and like I'm shielded. I reject that. I won't be racist. Immediately, these jive turkey villains show up, which are literally just like turkeys with afros that are dancing, and then she starts screaming to like attack the jive turkeys before they before they multiply. Essentially, you know. So, and I think that's a good joke.
That's a good joke
because it's like an actual commentary on how the kind of shit like this works, right? Like the sort of insidious nature of like racism and any type of discrimination in art or media, where it's like you can be as aware as you think you are, but if you're like engaging with it like for a second, it's really easy for that kind of stuff to actually rub off on you, or you to just sort of buy into like what you're seeing on screen if you're not thinking through like the metaphor or something like that, you know. It's all a conversation of just sort of like, yeah, did J.K. Rowling intend for goblins to be like a Jewish stereotype? Maybe she did, maybe she didn't, but either way, it's there, and I think you're reading that and you're going to you'll probably internalize those stereotypes and that prejudice in a certain way. That's exactly how this stuff works, and I love that they like put that on display with Brita exactly, you know.
And that's how you use Brita. That is exactly how you use her, is to point out that like if you've been programmed by this world that tells you this is how you're going to believe, your paper thin work that you've done is not going to protect you from exposure back to that sort of status quo.
Yeah, exactly.
Very well observed, Derek.
Yeah.
But we beat the boss of this level, which is, as Derek mentioned, just a 70s caricature of racism on display. And the group leaves the Black Cave. We're all thankful for it. And we are at a bridge to the Castle Hawkthorne. But before they can proceed, Gilbert arrives. The group engages him in battle, Annie accidentally killing Brita. And the fight with Gilbert doesn't go well because he has enabled his cheat code, so nothing they do harms him. In the end, he pulls out a boomerang ? Banana ? And it destroys the bridge. They all fall to their death, and he gets the white crystal. So he's all set to win before we bop back to the real world where Jeff and Pierce get up out of their weighted sensor chairs to confront Gilbert.
Well, that was not fair.
What the hell, Gilbert? You're cheating, which I have no problem with, but you're getting caught, and that's not cool.
Yeah, don't be a knob. That inheritance is rightfully mine.
Rightfully?
I'm his son.
So am I.
What?
Warning.
That can't be true. You're half white.
Nice save.
Do you remember your childhood nanny, Edda? Well, Edda had a hot cousin.
Warning.
My
Player
mother.
forfeit.
So you see, Pierce, I am your half-brother. And I am more your father's son than you ever were. So shut up and play the game.
And here we go. This is the emotional, we're getting ready for the emotional climax of the episode. Gilbert reveals that he is Cornelius's son, and Jeff and Pierce have to digest that a little bit before returning to their PlayStations to avoid disqualification. I'll also got to say, in moments of like a joke that sort of has been treaded ground before, this is a fun little misdirect. Gilbert asks Pierce, we're talking about Gilbert's lineage, and he asks Pierce, don't you remember that nanny used to have, which is the source of sometimes an illegitimate child. But then he turns and goes, yeah, she had a really hot cousin. That was my mom. It was a good joke. It was a good joke. It made me laugh because it came out of nowhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I mean, that's the emotional stakes of the episode now.
Yeah.
Finally, very late into the episode, we actually get something emotional, right?
I know, right?
So, everybody responds in the study room. Jeff gives a pep talk to the group and readies them to take on Cornelius, but instantly the group is murdered in the hallway by hippies. Cool, good job, guys.
Okay, look, I know things seem hopeless because he's all the way to the castle with the crystal and we're starting over. But here's the thing. We're better at this game now. We've died and been reborn, and that makes us heroes.
Yeah, let's get him!
It's great. It's great because it's the Jeff pep talk, and this is like a community standby. And that's why we're poking fun at ourselves, which is really great. Jeff's sort of the leader. He's got that charisma. He's the bard of the group. So he's got to get them ready to go.
Yeah, but it doesn't work in a video game setting, really, unfortunately. Gilbert uses the crystal to open Hawthorne Castle, which is like kind of the final area for the game. There is like one reference earlier, I think, that they make to like Gilbert wanting a crystal, and Chevy thinks it's like a crystal.
Oh yeah, I didn't know my
reference.
dad was into meth. Yeah,
which is funny because he's in Breaking Bad. That's all about meth. So it's like they had to get one in, right? I actually kind of appreciate that they didn't indulge too much in the Breaking Bad references with having him on the show. But yeah, so he's in the castle. We go back to the game world in the forest, but this is interesting because all the trees are gone. They actually come upon it in like less than an hour. Abed has built his own village with a giant palace, has like just unlocked everything about this game fully. I mean, which is very Abed, obviously.
Hello, old friends.
Abed!
You remember Hilda?
I live in the village. I love Abed.
Did she just say your name?
Yeah, if you max out a character's trust and affection levels, you can gain access to a front-end scripting language. Watch. She can make babies for me.
Oh, and I can't. I can't.
He's unlocked the ability to have Hilda make babies. Apparently, when you like max out a character's like friendship or whatever, you like get access to their coding, so you can just make them do whatever. I guess is what the what the consequences.
Yeah. In fact, he says that you can script them to give each other script, which is, again, we're talking about AI levels that are beyond my comprehension at this time, and like very, very, very complicated programming that's being done here.
Yeah, it's wild. So I mean, basically, Abed's created an army of his children that say "cool, cool, cool."
I will also say that in the game, you can make babies with Hilda. No matter what your character is, they will look like Abed babies, which is fair. How they should look.
That's fine.
All right, but here we are. We're now ramping up to the big finale. Cornelius appears before Gilbert in the castle and recognizes him as the winner of the game, but he does not recognize Gilbert as a rightful heir, using some pretty insensitive phrases to let him know that he is not the same child as maybe one that was born white.
Hello, Gilbert. Due to the nature of our relationship, I'll need your electronic signature on this legally binding agreement. It dictates that you will never ever besmirch the Hawthorne name with any outlandish notions regarding your genealogical origins. You are the bastard offspring of a colored seductress and an unknown weak-willed misogynist, and any assertion on your part to the contrary will be grounds for the seizure of this inheritance. Do you agree? It's a simple question, Gilbert. Do you agree? Thank you for being honest, Gilbert. Goodbye.
I'm your son!
I'm sorry, Gilbert. I always knew you'd disappoint me.
Gilbert has a moment where he says, no, that's not right. And he rejects it, which causes Cornelius to attack. Gilbert's on the run, things are starting to look pretty dire, but it's the Abed babies to the rescue with a chorus of cool, cool, cool. Cornelius then transforms the castle into the big boss, but the group with Abed baby army and increased tools of destruction at bay keep him and start to blow him up. Each character in turn gets beaten by the giant castle Cornelius, but the battle ends when Pierce rides an atomic bomb into Cornelius saying, "Hey dad, look at me now," and he is finally beaten. Cornelius is the final one with Cornelius, but he thinks he isn't the one who should win because he had help from the others.
I'm not the one that beat you.
Yes, you are.
We're forfeiting.
Warning. Player forfeit in 30.
Gilbert, you're right. You were more his son than me. You took all his crap and you didn't even get to take his name.
He once sat on me in church just so he could see better.
We've only been playing this game a couple of hours. You've been playing it your whole life. And now it's time for your reward, brother.
Warning.
So get in there and kill our dad.
10 seconds.
Thank you, Pierce.
You said Cornelius is the final one with Cornelius.
Oh, sorry. Gilbert's the one with Cornelius. There was a lot going on here.
There is a lot going on. It's a lot going on. I don't really even know. I think that this episode does go a little bit. I don't want to say it goes off the rails. It's a video game episode. It's supposed to be fun. So it's not going to be, I'm not going to complain that like you got Chevy Chase riding an atomic bomb into like a robot Colonel Sanders head or whatever. But it is just sort of like, okay, I don't really know.
Okay. Yeah, we had to end this.
Yeah, right. It just kind of happens. That's nothing. I don't really disagree with Dan Harmon on this case on the commentary. He's just like watching the third act. He's just like, what am I even supposed to be feeling here? Like, what's happening?
Right.
I'm like,
right.
Like, and it is, yeah. I do think that one I think sort of criticism I have of this episode is that I feel like the emotional aspects of it are so segmented from the video game aspect of it. It really is just sort of like 90% a fun, stupid video game thing that you're not supposed to think about. That's just a bunch of video game jokes and silly things that happen with some racism thrown in. And then like 10% of it is just sort of like this intensely emotional family drama thing.
Yes.
And they don't really tie them in together very well. And I think you see that in this sequence where it's just like absolute balls to the wall, batshit, just like bombs, explosions, lava or whatever. And it's like, okay, cool. And now I'm supposed to like cry at Gilbert having his big emotional catharsis right after this. Like, it's just sort of weird, you know?
And you're right, because the pathos isn't delivered correctly. And it's funny because I actually think there's some opportunity here. You've got Abed creating progeny. He's creating little versions of himself out there in the world. There's a way to talk about Gilbert being a little part of the world that Cornelius has created. And it's just like watching the ball go across the plate. Because there's no swing taken. We don't even try to do it. We get Troy and Abed shooting lava, which is great. It's funny, but it's not, it makes the emotional connection, which the music is telling me to feel when we open the next scene and the study group is standing over Gilbert and saying like, no man, it's yours. Like, take it. You deserve this. It feels so unearned.
It does. Cause really the only thing that we get about Gilbert is like, he has the one monologue when they first find out that he's Pierce's half brother, where it's just like, I mean, the context is like that we know from the show is that Pierce wasn't really around for his dad. They had a bad relationship and stuff. Or I guess maybe vice versa. And Gilbert was around with his dad. as much as his dad obviously looked down on him, he was there like with him throughout his entire life. So even though neither of them had a good relationship with the guy, Gilbert had to kind of put up with him more directly for a longer part of his life for like little benefit. Whereas Pierce, lived off of his money, but really got to at least have space from him. And so like, which is like, I think that those are smart details. I think that all makes perfect sense, but we get so little of that. It really is just sort of like one little monologue and everyone just kind of changes their mind and lets Gilbert have his thing, and everybody, which is like almost even kind of out of character for Pierce, given how often he's portrayed as like a selfish villain and stuff. And I could buy him having some sort of arc or growth where he is like, ends up being like willing to give this to his half brother. And like, that should be a really huge moment for him, sort of being willing to sacrifice something finally, for one of the first times in his life and seeing someone else as a person. Right. But we don't really, there's like not really any reason for that other than like, yeah, I mean, they both hate their dad, which, I mean, that does count for a lot of daddy issues. Sure. Big part. But like, I guess we just like, I feel like this show historically has been better about writing those things and giving them more nuance than what this episode delivers.
Right. And you've got plenty of wasted opportunity there on the cutting room floor, which is you had this scene with Troy and Pierce going into the tavern to play poker. You don't need this. Whereas you can have Troy engage Pierce and say like, hey, you thought video games were cool. I thought video games were cool. I did them with a sibling. Get some sibling talk in there early. Start to set some grounds on this. It's just totally unearned and out of left field.
Yeah. And if they were going to have, I feel like I would have rather it just been like, no emotional stuff in this episode. The Community has done that. They've done episodes where it's just full, absolutely nothing character based in it at all. And they'll work sometimes. Like, there's like a Colonel Sanders guy in this episode. The other KFC related episode, the Rocket episode from season 2, like that didn't really have character shit in it. Like that was just.
So there was no emotional pathos. Like you didn't need
exactly. You don't need it. And so I think that this episode was exactly the kind of thing that probably should have been like that. You're right. You're right. I should stop trying to fix the emotional thing, and it should be jettisoned. Right, because it's sort of like I feel like you already had a Pierce and his dad episode earlier in the season anyway. Like I like that this episode introduces Gilbert, and I do actually think that Gilbert's one of the things that is like implemented well in the 4th season for the episode he appears in. But like, I just don't know if this was the time and place to introduce the character. If it was, then this episode would have had to be radically different than what it was. And I think that they really seem to want to go for more of a fun one rather than emotional one.
But we do deal with that emotional resonance because, as I mentioned, we've got the group standing over Gilbert. They've all forfeited the game and tell him that he deserves to win. So Gilbert delivers the final blow. Good little tag here in that the AI programmed Cornelius is like, I bet you're wondering why I programmed myself recording a death knell.
I suppose you're wondering, player, why record myself breathing weird and letting you destroy me? Because I am a man of honor. So you've earned the pleasure of my death.
Which that's cute. I like that little introspection. Yeah. But back in the real world, Gilbert apologizes and says, "Oh, family stuff." That was also pretty funny. And invites them out to a bar. Of course, this group is game for that.
If it would make it up to any of you in any way, there's a bar in town called Skeepers, and I hear they make a specialty drink. A margarita, in fact, and it's served in the glass an entire yard long. My treat.
Scar.
The way he describes,
God, yes.
Like it's sort of like there's this place. It has margaritas in a glass that's a yard long. Like it's
yard
just
long. Like it's unheard of.
But it's like the way that it's just sort of, I love how long it takes to get to the thing that's weird because it's just like, they serve margaritas in a glass. What? Yeah. What are you talking about?
I think in particular he goes, they have a drink, a margarita. In fact,
the long walk that it takes to get to the actual interesting part of it.
He's so good. Because it is awkward. And you know what? Confronting a group of people that you just tried to murder in a video game is an awkward situation. This should be acted a little awkwardly, and he's nailing it. He's nailing it. But before the group goes out with him to get their yard-long margaritas, Abed sneaks back and downloads Hilda onto a flash drive, and that takes us out of the episode, except for, of course, the undercredit scene at the end.
Yeah, which actually, there's a bit to talk about with this one.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah, so...
Let's talk about what we get first.
Okay. So what we actually get, the real tag... which does not fit into continuity because technically the students are expelled, but whatever. It's cute. It's just Troy and Abed walk into the study room. They see a baby. They're like, oh no, I guess we got to raise this baby together. Oh no. And then they just have a fun little interaction about it. But then the mother's actually there, whatever. And like right before the mom leaves, you hear a quick cool from the baby, just like the Abed babies in the game. Cute, whatever, completely nothing to it. What's interesting about it, and I think probably another reason that Dan Harmon was
kind of down on the episode, is
that I think he was really burned. Literally the last thing that happened during filming of this kind of tumultuous season of the show was the big sticking point for the Chevy Dan Harmon feud.
Yeah.
Or maybe even maybe not the sticking point, like the final blow to it that resulted in like Dan Harmon's firing and everything like that. So basically the original tag was that I'll describe it like Dan Harmon had described it in a Reddit post actually, because he is obviously clearly like really in love with it. Basically like Abed comes with Pierce to the thumb drive. So instead of it being like, I think that he always downloaded Hilda, but the implication is that he also downloaded other stuff too. Yeah. And he basically gives Pierce a thumb drive that adjusts the code from his dad's game. It's like, here's a version that I think you'll like better. They played it in the laptop, and we cut to the laptop screen where we see Pierce's avatar on a front lawn with the giant floating head of Cornelius. And every time Pierce presses the spacebar, his avatar throws a baseball to his father's head, which gives him 1,000 points and a great job, son. And then Pierce presses the spacebar a few times, pauses, leans over, and embraces Abed, and we fade to black. And I think Dan Harmon credits Adam County for pitching that tag, and he says tears instantly rolled down his cheeks.
Yeah.
And he said that he thought it was the most important part of the episode, possibly one of the most important moments of the season. I don't know that I agree with that necessarily, but I think he's coming from what sounds like a very personal place, maybe from his own personal experience for maybe what he needed in his art. But he says, I was very upset to hear that it wasn't shot because someone didn't feel like shooting it. Chevy didn't, especially since it was literally the last day of shooting, which meant we'd never be able to pick it up. I regret nothing about how upset I got. My job was to care about my show. Yeah. So basically Chevy just didn't want to do it. I think I've read in other places that he didn't get the episode and he didn't really understand. And I think he was just like, I don't want to film any more of this. I don't really understand what this is, and I'm tired of it. And I don't like Dan Harmon already anyway, so nobody's going to convince me to do it. And then Dan Harmon got mad about it, and that resulted in the feud that kind of very heavily damaged the show going forward.
Do I recall reading that there were voicemails that were played at like a rap party?
Yeah, it was after this season. I think it was Chevy's voicemails to Dan, I think, right?
Yeah.
That were just sort of like calling him out and on shit and saying some nasty stuff, and Dan played it in front of everybody, and that in it, it was a lot of drama. And Chevy, was upset about it. And I think Dan is already like he's a complicated guy to this day. He's done a lot of not great stuff. He's also owned up to a lot of that not great stuff and apologized for it. So but I think he would admit that he's not a perfect guy and has made some mistakes. And I think that I think he still wasn't very easy to work with on this show. And I think that was just sort of the last straw for NBC to just be like, you know what, this is enough of a justification to let you go. And then, he's gone for a season, and then they hire him back on in season 5 anyway. So all's well that ends well, I guess. But it's interesting that one little end tag, I think caused a domino effect, because after that, Dan Harmon leaves, then Chevy Chase himself leaves. And then I think the show itself is just never the same, and more cast members leave as it goes along. And I think that is, that causes sort of a major shift in the history of the show. And I don't know, it's so interesting that it's just the result of this one little video game thing that I understand that moment I think it would have been a nice moment if we saw it. I don't think that it would have radically improved the episode, but I do understand how it's the reality of it was very personal for Dan Harmon, Yeah.
I mean, speaking of someone with father issues, it's a cute scene. I get what it's trying to deliver. I would think that scene would also be unearned if we had seen it.
I think so too. Yeah.
That's the problem. Like it like even as you were describing it, I was like, oh, is this impacting me emotionally? And then I was like, no. But the idea of programming a father figure that tells me great job has some appeal to me in like a dark recess of my brain.
I get it in theory. I do get it. I don't think it would have been a very nice tag, but it's also like it is also hard to get like an emotional catharsis in your end tag that the credits are playing over, you know?
Yes. Yeah. We talked about this last episode with Good Place, but like stuff happening over the credits it's wild. You just can't do the things that I think some of these shows are trying to do during these tag scenes.
Well, and Community usually doesn't. Community's end tags are always jokes, you know?
Goofy, it's like this baby thing. Like this is great. This is a Community end tag.
Yeah. So it was sort of a weird, ambitious thing to do. I feel like it's something that maybe should have been worked more into the episode instead of it being relegated to a tag, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think it also just kind of speaks to like the weird space that Community was in the season, where it was like, this is probably one of the most innovative seasons of the show, if not the most innovative season or ambitious in terms of everything it does, but it's still like ends up being kind of messy, I think, because of all the behind the scenes bullshit that probably came from the stresses and complications of it being ambitious and dealing with Dan Harmon as a person, I think too, and Chevy Chase as a person probably didn't help, you know. I will say that I remember back when this aired, someone did make their own like Well Done Son game that was based on what the tag was supposed to be.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know, obviously it wasn't a full game. It was meant to just be the same thing. So you literally just are Pierce's Sprite and you just throw a little baseball at your dad and he tells you, good job, son. But I remember playing it and I was like, this is really cute. I get it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good job, son. Yeah. I'm available to say that, but you got to go to my OnlyFans. That's different, right? No, I all in all, like, fun episode to watch. Watched it 3 times for the podcast, but I won't watch it again for a while. It's good. It's cute. I will say this, like I cannot speak highly enough of the art style. It is cute.
Yeah. I think I've always felt like this was, it's weird. It's like, for me, I think it's an incredibly ambitious episode, but it's like mid-tier Community, which is still like really good TV, and it's still not like anything you've ever seen. So it's weird to say like an episode where they make an entire video game is like a mid-tier episode, but like it is ultimately like the best stuff of this episode is just like what Titmouse did with the animation, and some of the jokes, but for the most part, like, it's just not as cohesive and smart, I think, as a lot of the best Community is, and not really as innovative as I think you would expect it to be. But as a piece of animation, it's incredibly ambitious, incredibly well done, and incredibly pleasant to look at and fun to talk about and break down. But yeah, it's not very high on my list of favorite episodes, unfortunately.
No. Well, that sort of takes us out. Anything else you want to say about this episode, Derek?
No, unless I can think of a funny joke, which I can't. So no.
You didn't read the Bible to old men in the bathtub?
You know what? I just literally scrolled up to where you had wrote that and thought about saying that, but I was like, it's too late. It's never too late to read the good word to total strangers who are naked in a bathtub. Look, you know what? Under the right circumstances, I could have fun with that. Just depends.
Monetize that shit, dude.
Yeah.
Well, it's been great connecting. I'll get us started with some closing tags. I've been one of your hosts, David Arnold, and if you want to find me online, I'm on most social media platforms as Dmuma, DMUMA. On Twitter, there's a 22 at the end, because I forgot the password for the original. Come and find me if you want to hear about my progress designing video games, just like the journey to Hawkthorne. And Derek, what about you?
Sure, you can find me on Twitter at Derek B. Gale, or other social media. Just Google me. You'll find me somewhere. You can find my other podcast, Walloping Web Snappers, a Spider-Man podcast that does deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. You can also follow me on Twitch at Mr. Dare Bear. I do streams on some Thursdays and Sunday nights, and it is streams of old airings of television shows that I have on VHS that are taped off of TV that contain the original commercials and bumpers. So if you want a dose of like nostalgic old school TV. Sometimes as early as like the early 90s, I think is the earliest stuff that I have. Check me out there and give me a follow.
If you'd like to show your support for the show, you can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/gimmicks-pod. You can also follow this podcast at @gimmicks-pod on Twitter or Instagram for some extra goodies. And email your questions, feedback, and corrections to gimmickspodcast@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe on all podcast platforms. And until next time, friends,
keep being weird.